Hey guys, Joe Miles here with Osseo Gear. This is the Mission Whitetail podcast. We're going to be doing a deep dive into what it truly takes to kill these mature bucks. We're going to step outside the box and look at the why for gear, tactics, training, and more importantly, the mindset from over 35 years of chasing these magnificent animals all over North America. Thank you for following along and welcome to Mission Whitetail. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mission Whitetail podcast. This is episode 47, the first one of 2024. Hope everybody had a good new year, off to a good start, got some goals set for the year. I am running solo today. Lucas is up in Ohio hunting, and so he is the whiz-bang technical guy, so I didn't really know how to incorporate a guest onto the Zoom meeting and all that. I know I'm technology backwards, but I think I've got a pretty good one. We're going to do some question and answers today, some pretty good questions, and then just kind of do a recap of 2023. And I had a good season. One of my better years. I got 6 bucks this year, 6 mature bucks, all over 4.5 years old. Started here in South Carolina in Velvet, shot a really nice 8-point. I was after. Got him early, I think the 18th. Our season comes in the 15th, and I think I killed him on the 18th. So that was a good hunt. Wrote a little thing about that. Last light, steep quartering away. Just a lot went into that. If I hadn't have been, doing a whole lot of practicing, knowing shot placement, having, the right sight that I could still see my pins right at last light. It was a perfect storm, a great broadhead that put him down. He went about 300 yards through a cutover. And I am 100% convinced that if I'd had one of the small fixed blade heads, it would have been maybe the next day that I would have found him. And if with it being hot in August, the meat would have definitely spoiled. Not going to get into a broadhead debate here. There are certainly reasons for fixed blade, and there's obviously reasons for mechanicals, and that is what I prefer. Follow that up, went from there to Texas, got invited to this really amazing place in Texas to hunt, and shot up what they considered a management buck, 161-inch 8-point. And just an absolute hammer. Texas and Mexico are different than hunting the Midwest and hunting here in South Carolina. It really is kind of a feeding corn situation where, you feed in the mornings, you feed in the evenings, and the deer come out to them. And it's just different. It's a great way to hunt. It's a lot of fun. It's low pressure. And if you know the deer's there, you're probably going to get a crack at him. Now, that's not always the case. But it's just different, and I enjoy it. I like doing that. I love the DIY in the Midwest and here in South Carolina, where it's, it can be really, really tough and a big grind, and you make your own moves and your own mistakes. And then, Texas, Mexico, it's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot of fun, and it's something where you are, a bait component is involved. And I certainly don't mind that, and I love hunting those areas. Next was Kentucky. Shot a 150-inch 10-point there. And that was a Bobby Worthington funnel that Bobby and I actually went out there and worked on in March and got tightened up. It's a really sweet property. Well, the property's small. It's only 80 acres, but the surrounding area, if a deer is going from big block of woods to big block of woods and really long range traveling, rut, he's got to come through there. So that's a great spot, and one that I'll try and hunt every year if there's a big deer in there. And even somewhere that you would hunt blind during the rut, you'd have to log a lot of hours there, but eventually a good buck is going to come through there. And I left a trail camera in there, and sure enough, later in November, once rifle season came in Kentucky, a real shootable mature buck did come through there. So if I hadn't have gotten that deer and had to put all my eggs in that Kentucky basket, I would have had a crack at another really nice one. So very good spot. Next was Kansas, and Another rut funnel situation, was hunting a big deer on a kind of the edge of a property, kind of the edge of his area. There wasn't a real good funnel. I needed to kind of be on the other property to get into the main funnel. Big deer, big 6x6, and he kind of vanished on us. And I transitioned over to another farm that absolutely had a great funnel. It was another river bluff that you could slip down. We'll have this on video. We'll have Kentucky and Kansas videos coming soon with a complete hunt breakdown. But slipped down a river, so unbelievable access, climbed up the bluff, hung right there, and then it was just torn up. The pinch was between a field edge and that river, and I shot the buck at 4 yards, quartering to, pretty neat. And that was a nice 160-inch 9-point. Lucas got great footage of him. From there, we went to Mexico. Me and a buddy went down to our place in Mexico, and he and I both got nice deer there. And both in the one was in the 150s, one was in the 160s. And then I took my son back with my roommate from college. We went back down to Mexico right before Christmas, and everybody got nice bucks on that trip. My son got a really pretty 10-point, second bow kill of the year. Really proud of him and how he's come on. And then I got a non-typical looking thing. It's a neat buck. He's got a kind of an upside down rack on his right side and then a typical 10 on his left. Pretty neat deer. So that wrapped up the season for me. And I guess the biggest lesson that I learned this year, and I harp on this quite a bit, is funnels. And I thought I knew what a funnel was. And then I got with Bobby, who is kind of the funnel master. And I know we talk about funnels all the time, but just want to reiterate, a real funnel is something that's going to pinch down 70 to 80% of the deer you see. So meaning that 70 to 80% of the deer you see are going to come within range of you through that funnel. And there are ways to tighten those things up with piling brush, dropping trees, even putting in, some wire or some ropes that the deer are going to want to go around. You could certainly do that in the off season. I've heard of guys even putting in some fencing. And that's an ethical thing, and you have to debate with that yourself, whether you like that or not, but it can work and it can pinch those funnels down. So that was the biggest takeaway for me, is not only rut funnels, but man, some of these I've already got some ideas for early season, and I'm gonna get into this 8-point in South Carolina that I'm going to chase here in a minute. But this flat swamp country, there's not a lot of natural funnels, and I think you can set them up again by dropping trees and piling up brush. It takes a lot of work, but you can tighten these things up to get deer into range, because they will go right through all that stuff. They'll jump through those trees and they'll jump over those brush piles or go through those brush piles, but they don't want to. They want to make it the least amount of obstacles that they can have where they still feel safe. So you don't want to set something up that forces them into a 5-yard wide strip. You want to be real strategic with it, so it's a 50-yard gap, and you're set up in there so that you maybe got a 25, 30-yard maximum shot. I know Bobby likes them a lot closer, 14, 18-yard shots. I'll stretch it out a little bit further than that. But that's something that I'm going to work on this off season. And I had a really good season, one of my better seasons, and I'm certainly not complaining. But I did have a buck in South Carolina give me an absolute fit. He's a nice 10-point, and I'm guessing he's mid 130s, maybe low 140s. That's a big deer for our swamp. There have not been a whole lot of deer that size. I only actually know of one other buck in that whole Congaree River Swamp Basin where we hunt that has been killed that big or bigger. And I spent a lot of time trying to kill this deer. I ran a ton of trail cameras, and got mostly night pictures, and it didn't matter where I moved them. I moved them all over the property. We've got it's 2,200 acres that I have permission to hunt, another 1,200 acres that I'm a member of a club. He never was on the club property, but he was on that 2,200 all the time. Excuse me, I'm getting a sip of water. And I tried everything. I put bait out, and he would come in to the bait pile in the middle of the night. It's legal to bait in South Carolina. It's tough where we are because the hogs are so bad that you can't really get an established bait pile. The hogs will eat it all night, and once the hogs hit it, the deer don't mess with it. So that really didn't work. We didn't have a very good sawtooth acorn drop this year. We had a little bit. White oaks did pretty good, and I actually got a daylight picture at 8 a.m. of some white oaks near a big cutover, and that's where I started focusing. Again, night pictures, night pictures, night pictures, and then I got another little spot that he came through late in the afternoon in shooting light, and then I started getting quite a bit of gray light pictures of him, meaning right at first light, still not being able to shoot, right at last light, not being able to shoot. So I'm pretty convinced he's living in this giant cutover, and he's a smart old buck, and just not coming out of there but a couple of times a year in daylight. And what I'm going to do is create some of these brush funnels and tree funnels that come out of that cutover towards these acorn trees. But because he can wander through there anywhere without them. So that's what I'm going to do, and then run cameras in those funnels and see if I can get him coming through there. If not, I'm going to go back to those historical spots where I got those gray light pictures and those couple of daylight pictures of him, because that's 2 years in a row that I've gotten a couple of daylight pictures in the same areas, and I'm just going to fixate on those dates and those times, and that's how I'm going to hunt that buck, and certainly keep everybody posted. That'll be a heck of a one to get, and I would be tickled to get him. A big challenge there. So my plan. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. Uh, Plans for 2024. Now that the season's over, what I'm going to be doing from now until the season starts is I'll be working on my shooting. You know, I shoot a lot. I shoot almost every day, but I still feel like I need to get some coaching. And I'm not afraid to check the ego and go to somebody that knows more about archery and more about executing shots than I do. There's a ton of stuff online. Obviously, there's courses online that you can take, but I feel like just going to somebody that understands this, that maybe target archery's got a hunting background, that can really help me with my shooting shot execution. I want to work on that. So we'll probably video some of that and bring it to you on the Mission Whitetail YouTube channel. So I'm planning on doing that, always working on my shooting. Like I mentioned, I'm going to tighten up some of these funnels in South Carolina and create some new funnels to try and kill this swamp buck that I really wasn't after him last year. He had a broken G2, and I think he was only a 3-year-old. This year, 4-year-old, full 10 point, never broke anything off. I do have a couple cameras still running, trying to get one. Our youth season went out this past Saturday. So just want to get verification that he's still alive. So hopefully I'll get a picture of him here in the next couple of weeks, and then I'll have all my cameras pulled, and that'll be it. As far as running cameras for now, unless we go and start hunting some hogs, and I'll throw some cameras back in there for some hog hunts. Kansas, I've gotten drawn 3 years in a row, so I'm knocking on wood here. Probably won't get drawn this year. So I'm going to be looking for another Midwest state to hunt for the rut. That may be Ohio, maybe Illinois, maybe Missouri, but I'm going to be kicking around another Midwest state to hunt, because I doubt that I'm going to get drawn in Kansas. I did own a small farm there year before last that we sold, and so I can't get a landowner tag. Maybe something will pop, and there'll be another farm that I could stumble into out there. But for the most part, going to be looking for another Midwest state, so I'm going to start working on that. Let's see. Really, my hunting plans from August 15th to Halloween, we'll be here at home in South Carolina going after this buck. The 1st of September, when the Kentucky early season comes in, I think it's like around the 7th or so of September. This year, I will go out there probably around the 5th, 4th or 5th of September, if that's right, 3 days before the season starts, and do a whole bunch of bean field glassing. But I don't push that. I used to. I used to really push that early season hunts, but I've got a great spot in Kentucky for the rut now, or the pre-rut. So I'll glass, and if we see something, I'll definitely make a move on him early. But just going to glass for 3 or 4 days and see if anything's in Kentucky worth maybe trying to get on early. If not, I'll back out, come back home, and just plan on hunting here at home until Halloween. Halloween, weather dependent, we'll head to the Midwest and hunt wherever that might be, Kentucky or Ohio, Kansas, Illinois, Missouri. And, that's up until probably November 20th. And I won't be staying the entire time out there, but that's kind of the Midwest gap. Then I've fallen in love with Mexico. I love it down there. And so I'll definitely be going back down there. I'm going to try and stay maybe 10, 12 days down there and get a whole bunch of good footage, because the rut down there is so violent and so awesome. I mean, it's snort, wheezing, grunting, scrapes, rubs. We got a ton of that footage this year that we're going to be putting on the Mexico hunts. So that'll be neat to see. And I love it. I mean, just that rutting and the whole environment, those brush country chocolate horn bucks are cool deer. One thing new this year, I don't know what state yet, but this little bit later rut I want to take advantage of. This after Christmas into like the middle of January in the Mississippi River Delta, like Arkansas, Mississippi, the southern part of Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, along that Mississippi River Delta. I want to get established out there, and I don't know yet the best way to do that. I've reached out to a couple outfitters out there, nervous about that because I don't like, the getting put into particular stands. I really like doing my own thing. So going to be talking to some other guys, maybe some leases, maybe some public, and just building a relationship, building a footprint out there and seeing what we can get put together. So that's kind of my hunting plan and what I'm going to be working on this off season. Obviously, testing a lot of new gear. That's something that I really enjoy doing: broadheads, arrows, bows, trail cameras. Steve Pinkston with Hardcore E-Cycles has come out with a new battery pack that goes on trail cameras. And apparently you can get twice as many. Like I normally, out of those lithium batteries, I get about 2,500 pictures before I have to replace them. And with this new battery pack that Steve's got with Hardcore E-Cycles, I think you can get twice that many, which is huge. And he sent me one of them to test out, so I'm going to give it a test here in a couple weeks and see how that thing does. I'm going to put it, probably around a hog wallow or a big feeder or something like that, and just see if we can get 5,000 pictures and see how it does. So I'm going to try that out. Trade shows, we got a ton of trade shows coming up. We're really going to be we start in Nebraska, then we go to the Grand American, or is it Great American? I don't know. It's the one in Harrisburg, PA. That's like a 2-week deal, 1st of February. And then we go everywhere in between. I mean, I'm talking Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Columbus, Ohio. We're going to go to some of the TAC events. Rendell Eric is our trade show manager, and he's going to be running that. We're getting him a van all wrapped up and ready to go in Osseo, and he's going to be burning up the interstates from trade show to trade show. So look forward to seeing a lot of you guys at these different trade shows. Update on the Bobby Worthington course. We went ahead and added a second date because the first one was so popular, and a couple guys did move from the first course to the second. So we've got a couple spots open in the first course and a couple spots open in the second course. So if you're interested in coming and hanging with Bobby Worthington and I and going through big woods and what real funnels look like and how to set them up and really a tactical approach to, it's going to be a lot on public land, on land that Bobby has access to. It's at his home place. So I am thrilled about being a student at this one as well, and I'll be diving in to some tactical stuff that I do, dropping that during the course. It'll be a half day inside in a classroom, and then that second afternoon or that afternoon of that day will be in the woods, and the following day will be an entire day in the woods with Bobby and I going through different setups, tree stand placement, mock scrapes, just the whole gamut of how to get stuff set up and what to look for to determine what is actually a funnel and a long range travel corridor funnel versus just feeding trails that are coming out to different places to feed. So going to be a good time. If you're interested in that, you can call us at Osseo Gear. That's 888-544-7150. Excuse me. Or you can email me at joe@osseogear.com, either one of those. And we got a couple spots left for that course. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. That kind of is update that we've done 2024. This is the first podcast of the 2024 season. I can't believe it's episode 47. I mean, we're 5 away from having done this for 2 years. That's amazing. Appreciate all you guys listening. Means a lot to us. Let's see. Let's jump into the question and answer. I've got 10 of them, and I'll dive right in. The first one, I'm gonna get a sip of water real quick. The first one, would you ever shoot a bow other than Matthews or a broadhead other than Trypan? The answer to that is absolutely yes. I have never been as torn as I was last year. There were 3 of the bows I shot that I loved. I loved the Prime. If you look back at the video on the Joe Miles YouTube video, you'll see me talking about how much I love the draw cycle and shootability of the Prime. Really like that. That Hoyt, the new Hoyt, I really liked the draw of that new Hoyt. And then, of course, I like the Matthews, and I ended up going with the Matthews. And I think it was a muscle memory thing, is why I ended up going with it. The speed of the Matthews is great. The sound that it puts out when it shots, how quiet it is great. But at this point, guys, I think your bow of choice might not necessarily have to do with the speed and noise unless they're just crazy differences, which I have not found that there are. We're talking 2 or 3 feet per second, and we're talking about a inkling of difference in sound. Yes, I will be the first to admit that that little bit can be the difference, but I think that the shootability of the bow is going to lead to more accurate shooting, and that could trump a few feet per second or a hundredth of a decibel quieter one from the other. Again, the bows were so close. The Prime, the Hoyt, the Matthews, so close. And I'm sure the PSE, I'm sure that the Bowtech, I'm sure they're right in line with those. So this year, obviously, we're going to do a bow review, and I'm going to pick the bow that is the most shootable, that I enjoy the draw cycle the most, and the shot sequence. So it will be a personal choice for me with what I go with, but I would absolutely have no problem changing from Matthews. Broadheads, it's going to be hard to get me to go back to a fixed blade head. I've just had so much success with a mechanical and mainly the tripan. And we're not talking about one or two animals, and this is not bragging. This is what has happened in the last 4 years. I've shot 25 mature bucks, big mature bucks from skittish, jumpy deer here in South Carolina to big bone, giant 300-pound Kansas and Alberta bucks, Minnesota bucks, the fast jumping little Texas, Mexico bucks. I've shot them from all over and just constantly over and over and over again have seen what the mechanical broadhead can do. And so much so we've tested them like crazy, and I've taken them over to Africa. A lot of you guys know I used to work in Africa, so I've got some good buddies over there. So I'm able to go over there and hunt with some of my friends, and shot sable, shot kudu, shot these big boned animals that you hear a lot of guys talking about. Well, a mechanical won't penetrate, and that's not true. They will. The mechanicals of today are way different than the original rages. And again, I don't want to get into a whole broadhead debate here. The question was, would I ever shoot anything other than a tripan? Yes. I like the severs. I really like the mega meats. I think that's a great head. And I'm going to test a couple more. There's a company called Valkyrie Archery that has an interesting looking mechanical called the Death Switch. I think it's what it's called, or Dead Switch. Anyway, it's Valkyrie Archery. You can look at them. They've got almost like a 1-inch fixed blade front and then two front deploying blades, which I'm not wild about. The blades are a little bit thin. But everything I've heard about the Valkyrie guys, they or the guy that owns it, they build some high speed stuff. So I'm going to give them a try, see how they fly, see how they penetrate, see how the blades hold up. The tripan, I'm going to ATA. No, not the tripan, the mega meat. I'm going to ATA Saturday. This is obviously going to air after I've already back from there, but I'm going to talk with the guys at G5. They had the Havoc, which was the 2-blade, and that was going to be my broadhead over the tripan. The blades were sharper. I think they were just as thick, and the penetration was better. That ferrule design I liked better, but they discontinued the 2-blade. The only issue I have with the mega meats is the blades are a little bit spindly on the ends. So in our testing, they bent more so than the other ones that we tested. Now, is that a big deal? Not really. I mean, we're shooting through plyboard stuff that's not a deer, and I've seen the mega meats over and over and over again, shot by some serious big buck killers, do really, really well. So I would definitely consider shooting that broadhead, especially if they would maybe consider going to like 150 grain. I think that would be incredible and really needed in the mechanical industry. Is if you got some 150 grain mega meats, man, all they would have to do was strengthen up those blades a little bit, add a little bit more to those blades, put a little more weight on the blades, and I think that would probably be the best broadhead that you could shoot a deer with. 3 2-inch blades, the massive destruction that thing would cause would be incredible. So yes, I would switch from a Matthews, and yes, I would switch from a tripan. It's obviously going to have to take something provable to me to do that, but I would absolutely do it. All right. Next question? Let me get a little sip of water real quick. What is the difference between a good deer hunter and a great or elite deer hunter? Well, everybody's not on the same playing field. So I don't think there's a way, and this wasn't your question, but I don't think there's a way to say who is the best deer hunter, because everybody's got it different. Some people are after one particular buck in Iowa. Some people are after multiple deer in public land in Pennsylvania. Um, some guys only hunt public land, some guys only hunt private land. There is no equal playing field. But I think what separates, or I don't think this, I know this, what separates a good deer hunter from the top tier 1% deer hunter is really four things that I've come to witness from some of the top deer hunters in the country. And first and foremost is attention to detail. It's uncanny how they pay attention to different things. And that might be their bow sight. I talk about this all the time. This is just an example of having a green top pin because that one gets brighter the earliest and it gets darkest the latest. So that's attention to detail. How they're hanging their stand, which limbs they're cutting and not cutting, how they're positioning their stand in the funnel, what their access is, just an overall attention to detail and not letting anything slip through the cracks. And that's followed up closely with discipline. They've got the discipline to stay out of areas until conditions are right and what they need to be. It can be, example, I was hunting with Bobby Worthington out in Kansas, and he is a huge proponent of hunting the rut daylight to dark. That stacks the deck in your favor, and you're hunting a funnel, and you're hunting a particular funnel, and the more hours you log there, the more likely you are to kill. His discipline, he could have sat there all day when it was getting up to 70, 75 in the afternoons. And on those particular days, he would come out of there because he was disciplined and knew that the weather was not perfect for those afternoon hunts. And instead of burning himself out, he was able to come out then, and he was disciplined enough not to sit in there and burn himself out. Same thing with early season hunts. The season opens, everybody feels like, all right, I got to be in the woods hunting. Well, again, if conditions aren't right, you don't have a great ambush on the deer you want. The elite level hunters don't go. They stay out then. So attention to detail, discipline, and I think there are two more things that really separate the elite level deer hunter, and that's being able to check their ego. Most of them have egos. There's no doubt about that. I've got a couple running through my brain right now that have pretty big egos, but they check their ego and are open-minded and willing to learn. They know they don't know everything. It may come across that they do know everything, but if you get around somebody that killed a big deer on purpose, they want to know every single detail. They want to know every detail and have an open mind and listen to how that hunt went down and see if they can pick any pearls of wisdom up out of that. So having an open mind, talking to people that kill big deer on purpose and hearing how they did it from A to Z. A lot of the really good elite level deer hunters do that. And then finally, work ethic. And I think that goes without saying. That's with any business or anything you want to be really good at. You've got to work your tail off. And I use this analogy. If it's 3 a.m. and raining and that's the opportunity you needed to move a stand, you got to get up at 3 a.m. and go move that stand. If that means driving to 7-8 hours to get it done, that's what you got to do. And that's what separates good from great, the work ethic and the ability to do what has to be done when it has to be done. And that can go back to discipline as well. So I think that's what separates good from great. All right. Third question, when is your favorite time of the year to hunt? Well, it used to be, I really loved the early season. You could get on them quick and, they hadn't been pressured, and that was a real good opportunity to get on them. Now that I'm getting a better understanding of funnels and the rut, I love the rut. You hear a lot of guys, oh, I'm a terrible rut hunter. I hate the rut. It's the worst time to kill a particular buck that you're after. I don't necessarily agree with that anymore. I feel like the rut gives you the greatest opportunity to be successful because that's when a lot of those target bucks are going to be on their feet in daylight. And if you're in their home range and you are in the long range travel corridor funnel, eventually he's going to come by there. You can play cat and mouse with him early season and, in October and guys kill him. I've killed him. I killed the tracks buck in October. Um, so you could definitely kill them then. But personally, I love the rut. I like when their necks are all swollen up. I like those big bodies. I like when they're aggressive. I don't care if they've got a tine or two broken. That doesn't bother me one bit. That means he's a badass and he's been hunting. He's been fighting and kicking other bucks all over the area. So to me, I love the rut, and I'm going to try to experience as much rut as I can next year, which is that early part of October in South Carolina, November in the Midwest, mid December in the Texas Mexico area, and then try to get in that Mississippi Delta in late December, early January, and hit as much rut hunting as I can because I love that. I love the aggressiveness. I love the bucks being swollen up, the necks, how aggressive they act, and I just like that. That's just kind of what I like, or what I've grown to like. Now, don't get me wrong. If I get that big swamp buck on any pattern early season in velvet here in South Carolina, I'm gonna zip an arrow through him if I get the chance. But the question was, when's my favorite time to hunt? And that would be the rut. Um, on to the next one. How often do you shoot your bow? Well, this time of year, like I talked about earlier, I'm going to be trying to shoot several different bows and picking the one that I like. So I should have that wrapped up and dialed by the 1st of February. Once the 1st of February rolls around, that's when I'm going to be getting with the shooting coach. And I try and shoot every day. I try and shoot as much as I can. I'm very fortunate here at my office. I've got a tower and a range here where I can come in early, get a workout in, and get some shooting in. So I try and shoot at least 5 times a week. And normally that's a session of at least 15 arrows. When we get into hunting season, it's hard to do that because you're traveling, you're in the woods so much. But I will make it a point, even if it's with headlights, that at least every other day get 2 or 3 arrows downrange at 30 yards. One, to make sure things are still going smoothly with the bow, that everything's still tuned, and secondly, just to stay sharp, Now, if I get into an area, and I'm in 35 years of bow hunting, I've shot one whitetail at over 50 yards, 52 yards. Just about every other shot was inside 30. But if I got an opportunity where, there was, I don't know, let's say it's a bigger funnel than I wanted, or I got a scrape that's 40 yards away and it's the only tree I could get in, that I would absolutely obsess when I was hunting that area, taking 40-yard shots every day when I came out, or even at night, whatever I had to do to work on those 40-yard shots. So, not saying you need to shoot a deer at 40 yards, but if that was the case, then in season, I would practice that because that's an abnormal shot for me. I want to shoot 30 yards and in. That's kind of what I've set up and what I've seen with deer body language over the years is this the most lethal. But hey, I've shot one at 50, and you see guys shoot them further than that, and to each his own when it gets into how far you want to shoot at deer. Let's see. Next, have you ever had target panic? Yes, I have. It's a mild case of it, and I'm normally able to power through it. The issue I get is when I pull up, my pin wants to uh, lock up underneath the kill zone, and when that starts happening, and it happens often to me, and that's another reason I want to get a coach. I'm able to overcome it, and in my mind, I'm able to make the pin come up and then execute the shot. But it's an uncomfortable feeling, and guys have gotten target panic a lot worse than that. But what I do is when that happens, I pull everything in. I get to 10 yards and I blind bail shoot for a day or two, and then I start moving the target back out 10 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, and normally it'll make it go away. But if you have bad target panic, man, there are a million different videos online. My buddy Andy May has had it really bad, and he's got a whole segment. I think you can look up Andy May target panic, and between podcasts he's been on and probably some videos, that's a guy that I would refer you to if you've got some target panic issues. Let's see, saddle or lock on. Huh, that's interesting. Um, I think they both have their place. I've shot deer out of the saddle, shot deer out of lock-ons. I'm not sure there's any arguing that having 2 feet firmly planted on something level, you're going to be more accurate. I don't know. Maybe maybe somebody can correct me on that, but I feel like having 2 feet on a platform, basically shoulder width apart, is a firm stance, and I'm going to be more accurate. I don't have a ton of arrows out of a saddle. I have practice out of a saddle, and I've shot 3 or 4 bucks out of a saddle, and they definitely have their place. And I definitely will use a saddle when I need to, but I prefer the lock on. I just feel more comfortable in it. I think I'm a more accurate shooter, and so I prefer the lock on. But I do have a saddle, and I'm certain that I will be using a saddle again. Um, let's see. Question number 7. Lighted nocks or no lighted nocks? Yes, I'm a lit nock or lighted nocks guy. I have been using the nocturnals. I feel like, especially low light, they give you such a great idea of where you hit, especially if you're filming. You can go back and look, and I think that can be vital in recovery and how quick to pick up a trail. So I am a huge proponent of lit nocks or lighted nocks. However, I have had issues with my nocturnals this year, and the dadgum things, just about every time I put them on my string, they would turn on. And I've never had that before. Maybe it was a bad batch. And I know some of them I've shot through animals and reused them. So that could be it. But this last time in Mexico, it happened 2 mornings or a morning and an afternoon. And I went to a brand new pack that I'm certain I bought off online. So I know it wasn't the same batch out of my archery shop. And the dadgum next morning they cut back on too. Now it's not hard to turn them off. Once you have them on your string, you just take a pocket knife or another arrow and put it in there and pull them off. It's just a pain in the butt. They still function well. So anybody out there that's got any lighted nocks that they really like, that are bulletproof, let me know. I feel like Tim Gillingham was promoting some, and my buddy EJ from Texas was trying them out. Maybe Halo or Halon, I can't remember, but they look pretty neat. But anybody got any lighted nock lighted nocks that they like? Shoot them my way. I want to try some out this off season. But yes, absolutely, I love the lighted nock. I've heard stuff about deer seeing the flash and causing them to jump more. I don't buy that. I think especially if you use the green light ones, which are the ones that I use, I don't think they see that light. And that green light is what I have found to be the brightest in low light conditions. What is your number one shooting drill that helps you the most with hunting? This is going to be real simple. The number one drill, and it's a pain to do, is to go get in the woods with your 3D targets. Even if it's once a week, every other week, go to the woods, hang a lock on, put on your harness, hook into a lifeline, scatter your targets around, and spend 4 or 5 hours in the woods with your targets and shoot from the tree. By far the best practice and drill that you can do. It amazes me some of the best hunters. We talked about earlier attention to detail, discipline, open minded, work ethic, controlling what they can control, which would be discipline and attention to detail. How some of these guys don't shoot their bows. I mean, it sighted in at the beginning of the year, maybe an arrow every other week, arrow or two. Yep, that's good. Let's go. That's not me. I want to shoot a lot and I want to be deadly accurate with my bow. And shooting out of the woods, if you're a saddle guy, hang your saddle. If you're a lock on guy, hang your lock on. But get in the woods in different environments. Don't go out there and set up a permanent one and your stands in the woods and go shoot the same course over and over and over again. Yeah, that's better than nothing. I've got that here at my shop. I've got a tower, got 4 or 5 that I can put out there in my gravel yard. That's better than shooting off the flat ground. But man, if you go to different situations and set up and have different shooting windows, different limbs to shoot over, shoot under, there is no better drill, no better practice than that. So that would be my recommendation. Kane, I get it. You got to make the time for it. You got to load the targets into your truck, drive to your hunting spot, hang a stand, put the stuff out. But hey, if you take a couple guys with you, man, it can be fun. We did a video on that. Me and Robert and a couple other guys got together and went out and did that, and it was a lot of fun. And so that's something you can incorporate for some camaraderie and go out, and it will pay you back in spades come hunting season because you're getting rep after rep after rep in real world situations, and you can even have a guy do some time stuff with you. You can get drawn and you got a target at say 10, 20, 30 yards, and you can have your buddy go, okay, draw, and you get drawn, and then he can do a countdown for you. He can, or he, excuse me, I got that a little bit wrong. He can say draw, and then he can pick 10, 20, 30 yard and say, okay, draw 30 yards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you have to execute the shot in those 5 seconds. And so that can be, that puts you under stress. And it's no different than a deer walking into your shooting lane. You obviously don't want to rush a shot, but it conditions you to be able to shoot under duress and in a time window, which is like a live animal. And the point of not knowing where you're going is you can't already be aimed. So you draw, and then he tells you the 10 yard, the 40 yard, or the 30 yard, whatever you have them set up at. And then you're able to zone in on that and like the deer just walk into your shooting lane. So that's a really good drill, but make it as real as you possibly can. It'll pay you back in spades come hunting season. Let's see. I got 2 more here, so it's going to be a little shorter podcast today. What is my stance on the quote unquote war on cell cams? Man, I didn't know there was a war on cell cams. But I guess what he's referring to is cell cams getting banned on some of these public places or trail cams in general. I use cell cams. I use trail cameras, and I think they're an awesome tool. I think what it does is it tells you what kind of deer you have in your area, and it tells you when they start moving in daylight. Those are good things. I mean, if you take the cell camera out of the equation, then you're going to have to hunt a lot more, which isn't a bad thing. But for a guy that has limited time, and it seems we're in modern times now, guys. I mean, there's people having to work hours and hours and hours and hours just to keep up. I'm not saying that 50 years ago you didn't have to do that, but it seems like, I don't know. I'm going to probably open up a can of worms here, but it's my stance. That's what he asked me. Um, if you don't have cell cams, you're going to have to hunt a lot more. It's certainly going to make you a better woodsman, which is a great thing. But in the modern time, guys don't have, or for the guys that don't have not made it a priority, a cell cam can really help. Again, it can tell you when they're coming in daylight. It can tell you what kind of deer you got on your property. You may not even want to hunt a particular property. Without them, you might be in there the whole season not knowing, and that's certainly okay. That's like it was however many years ago. And there is a push. I guess that's what this means, the war on technology, more so than just cell cams. It's come a long way, man. Woodsmanship is being lost. There's no question about that. But I like cell cams and trail cams. I think they give me an advantage. They obviously give you an advantage, and it's a tool that I use, and it's definitely going to save time if that's a priority. Because without cell cams, you're going to have to hunt a lot more. Now, is that a bad thing? For a guy that's got limitless time and can hunt all the time and has great woodsmanship, no, that's not a bad thing. He's going to have all the advantage. For the guy that doesn't, that maybe has 2 or 3 kids, full-time job, ambitious entrepreneur that's working his butt off but still likes to hunt, the cameras can help that guy. So that's my stance. To each his own. Whatever you want to do is fine. I'm a cell cam guy. I'm a trail camera guy. And when they make them illegal, then I'll stop using them and abide by the rules. And so that's my stance on the camera issue. Best state. This is the last question. Best state for killing a Boone and Crockett buck. Ooh. Mm. Well, there's statistics for that. I mean, you can look in the record books and the reports, and it'll tell you. I haven't hunted Iowa, not from Iowa, and I'm not interested in only being able to get a tag once every 5 years to hunt there, because you figure out a property and then it changes or you can't get back on that property. So I'd much rather hunt a property, a place that I can hunt every year, at least every other year, statistically. Ohio, man, is a great state. I have not had a ton of luck in Ohio. God, I'm so torn here. I think it boils down to Midwest and the property more so than the state. I mean, if you had to say pick a state that you could hunt and get a tag in every year, I mean, I would probably go with Iowa or Kansas. Those would probably be my two. And because of that, I would probably say Kansas. I think, again, and I'm torn. I mean, Ohio's a great state too. Missouri's great. Indiana can be good. There are a lot of good ones. But I guess to answer the question, if gun to my head, I would pick Kansas as the best state for me to go and get on a Boone and Crockett. I guess it's because I know Kansas pretty well. I got good properties to hunt out there. So yeah, that would be Kansas would be my vote. All right, guys, that will wrap us up for today. We'll do another Q&A. If you want to email in your questions, you can send them to my Osseo address, joe@osseogear.com. Any questions that you have. We'll have a guest on for the next podcast, and Lucas will be back in town, so the technology will be back in check. But guys, I appreciate it. Happy New Year to you. Hope you guys had a good season. Anybody that's still out there grinding, I know my buddy Rendell It's our trade show manager. He's still grinding up in Iowa. He said the real cold weather was coming, -20 was coming, but he would be on the trade show circuit and his season would be over. So I don't know about -20, boys. That's pretty cold. But anybody out there, I guess Ohio's really the major big buck state that's still open, along with Mississippi, Louisiana, maybe Arkansas and Alabama. Wish you guys a lot of luck to finish out the year with a bang, and then get ready to develop the process to do what it takes during this off season to kill them this coming fall. Thanks, boys. Y'all have a good one. We'll talk soon.